Fake news and government censorship are growing pains throughout the world. Can a blockchain solution incentivize accuracy and ensure censorship resistance and verifiable news? According to the DNN Media Network, the answer is yes. DNN's mission is to create news content that is both empowering for its readers as well as representative of the integrity of its writers. They aspire to become the most trusted and democratic news alternative to mainstream media. Today, we are going to discuss how are they planning on achieving this, what's their business model, token economics, and possible bright future. Please welcome Samit Singh, co-founder and CEO of DNN, and Dondrey Taylor, co-founder and CTO of DNN. Okay, so hello, Samit and Dondrey. Thank you very much for being here, and welcome to the Online Crypto Summit.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
Yeah, so before we go into the project, can you share a bit about your background and how did you get involved into blockchain and crypto?
Yep, so I come from a more design and product background, and with everything I've been doing before this, it's all been working with Dondrey. We've been building mobile apps, web apps, so we both come from like a purely like a tech background. So we were more involved in developing like traditional apps before we started learning about the blockchain, and like Bitcoin was like the introduction, and then we learned about Ethereum, and from there we just got deeper and deeper in and started learning about things like mining, and after that we started learning how to build like decentralized applications on top of Ethereum, and there we are.
Very nice. Dondrey, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as someone pointed out, I mean, we both have like more of a technical background. Just kind of the way we work, he handles a lot of the product, a lot of the user experience, and then I handle more of like the technical implementation aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, like you had mentioned, like we got into the whole blockchain through mining. So originally, back like a couple years ago, we started just kind of playing around with the Bitcoin network. Spun up some nodes, and then from there, we learned about Ethereum and all the amazing things you can do with smart contracts. So that kind of just got us into the idea of, building like DNN.
Okay, cool. So let's get straight into it. How would you explain the DNN project under a minute?
Yeah. So with DNN, we're building a decentralized and censorship-resistant news platform on top of Ethereum. So the way it works is, let's say you're a writer, you would basically write up a piece of content and submit it to the network, and it gets sent to a randomized set of reviewers who then approve the article for factual authenticity. And if the article gets rejected, it goes back to you with feedback from the reviewer, and if it gets accepted, it gets published to the chain, and from there it can be consumed by the readers, and it's immutable. So basically what we're doing is building this community-based news platform that is owned by the participants, and we're flattening the publishing flow.
Okay, cool. So what would be the purpose of your native of your token? What utility it will have within that network? How will that work?
Yeah. So really, I mean, fundamentally, what the token's going to allow people to do is collaborate within a publishing flow that's going to give way to more fact-checking, more fact-seeking when it comes to article publications. So what I mean by that is if you're a writer, you would essentially use a token to get your article reviewed by the network. And once the article goes to a randomly selected reviewers, those reviewers can also use the token to stake to vet that article. So the idea is basically we're using this token to incentivize certain types of behavior that's going to give way to more factual articles and a more transparent publishing flow. So we have reasons for you to hold the token. We have reasons for you to use the token on the network to perform actions. And we've really just built the token economy in a way that's going to give way to a self-sustaining publishing platform.
So will people who contribute articles be rewarded as well with the token?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So when tokens go into our platform, we essentially pool them together. And then over time, we will distribute them based on your efforts on the platform. So if you're a writer who constantly gets something accepted, we'll issue tokens to you. If you get rejected, we'll take tokens from you. We have these kind of penalties and incentives to get people to really behave in the platform the way we want.
Yeah, so in like a really even like simpler terms, the token is very much a utility to the platform. So it's a necessity to have the token to participate in like the actual process of DNN. So writers basically need the token to pay reviewers to review their articles. Reviewers need the token to stake it to basically bid to review articles, and readers can also spend tokens as well for pointing out things like maybe additional inaccuracies in an article, or spending tokens for making suggestions to writers to cover additional topics. So it's very much like a sort of like we think about it like membership for all parties involved in the platform, and the platform can't really thrive without the token.
So what will attract the readers then into that community?
Yeah.
So most of the feedback we've gotten from readers comes down to the transparency, and it's funny, like we've seen different types of feedback from different regions. So in like in the West, when it comes to more of like North America and Europe, readers seem much more attracted to the fake news aspect, and the fact that like we're doing what we can to combat fake news, because one of the things we do notice right now, especially the market that we're in, and we're in the U.S. A lot of people are sensitive to the fake news issue because it's rampant on Facebook, Twitter, and it's a big problem to the point that I think a recent statistic I was looking at, it said that around 60% of people in the U.S. share fake news without even knowing it, and they share it with their friends too, and then it just spreads even more, and then it becomes a disaster because this is all like very sensationalistic content that we're sharing as well. So it is a big issue. There's a lack of transparency in a lot of the media conglomerates as well, who put out a lot of the news that we read on a day-to-day basis. So that's what readers value the most when it comes to more accurate content for the public interest. But in the Eastern world, we've seen a different reaction. Like in China, Hong Kong, it comes more down to the censorship aspect. And for them, the allure of DNN is that they can still access the news anytime they want, without having to worry about any government intervention or any third-party takedowns and seizures of the content, since it's all hosted on the blockchain.
Yeah, and I just want to also add, so one of the things about our platform too is that like you're not just a reader passively consuming articles on DNN. You're actually playing a more active role in pointing out inaccuracies, in providing additional tokens that go to the writer. So you're more like incentivized to participate rather than just consume the articles and believe whatever is being published on the platform.
Yeah.
So how are readers incentivized? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so our review process actually has two portions to it. So we have the review process where the article gets submitted by the writer, and then the reviewers are users on the network that want to be reviewers can vet that article, and then it gets submitted. The issue with just having that is if there's any inaccuracies that come down later on, those will fall through the cracks, and there's no way for that to be reflected in the article again. So one of the things that we do is we allow the reader to point out inaccuracies using tokens. So essentially they stake tokens to any inaccuracy that they find, and then once the article goes back into review and either gets accepted or rejected, we then reward the reader for pointing out that inaccuracy. So the best way to describe it is you can think of it like an incentivized Wikipedia, where if you point out an inaccuracy on Wikipedia, you're rewarded with tokens.
That's interesting. So who would be, are you targeting those 60% who share the fake news, or are you targeting the rest of the community who are seeking quality news to read? Who will be approaching first?
So I would say in the long run, actually both things you said. Initially though, we've seen like a more immediate reaction from that 60% actually, from people who've been, feeling like a lot of the things they read on a day-to-day basis aren't authentic, and they've unknowingly shared, content like that across, their own social networks. So I do feel that that's going to be our first target, or, a very primary target for us early on. But later on down the line, as more people join the network and as more, education is built up on how the token works and how the blockchain works, I think we can target a much more massive audience, and doesn't have to be regionally restricted either.
Yeah, and we're going to have different roles that will fit even experts for that matter. So we don't, although we may come across like a citizen journalism platform, we do realize that there's a need for expert journalists, expert people who can put together articles, quality content. Yeah. So, with the platform, we're definitely going to put a focus on expertise. and also media literacy as well.
Okay, so what's your business model here? How are you going to profit from it? How are you going to sustain the network?
So a little about like DNN. So DNN is actually a limited Gibraltar company, and the way we're able to further develop the platform is after each review process, a small portion of those tokens goes back into the company holding. And from there, we're actually able to then resell those tokens to the general public. However, like DNN, the company has no say in what gets published. So we do have like a separation between what happens on the platform and then what us, DNN, the company, is able to do. But I mean, that's one aspect. Another aspect, we also have, a lot of academia comes to us, as regard to like how we're utilizing the blockchain to get people to kind of behave and vote together. So we do see like potential in doing like white labeling solutions
for the research community.
For the research community, yeah. So not just using DNN for news, but using DNN to peer review articles, and that's something that the company can profit from as well.
Yeah, that could be a really interesting avenue, along with the first thing that Dondrey said of like basically taking a cut of all the transactions the network as revenue. I think a third revenue stream that we always talk about is this whole aspect of fact checking as a service, where bigger mainstream media entities could actually hopefully collaborate with us, and I think that would be an incredible avenue to explore, because if this review process of DNN, which is really like the main part of the platform, if it really works the way we intend it to, that could be something that could be licensed to to other companies as well who want their news fact check and run through our system before publishing it for their own audiences. So it could have like sort of like a DNN seal of approval, so to speak. So I think that could also be a potential revenue stream down the line as well.
Okay, so speaking of that, who will be your buyers, your token buyers? Who would like to buy these tokens later on when they hit the market?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge variety of people. I mean, definitely the ideal users, so like the readers, or writers, independent writers, or anybody interested in reviewing articles can also purchase the token. But more importantly, like by purchasing a token, it's really gonna help us propel the platform that much further. So even people that just have a vested interest in the project long term, we would definitely love to have them purchase the token.
Yeah, we've seen like really early on, a lot of these like more smaller independent writers and organizations seem to be like the early buyers, the early adopters of the platform, and they have a vested interest anyway, since they would be like early users of the platform. So they have like a pretty high interest in buying those tokens, when we do hit the other markets.
Okay, cool, interesting. So what is the current state of the development? Do you have a testnet or MVP ready, or anything that people can look at? Also, is it open source or it's proprietary?
Yeah, so currently we did launch an early stage alpha back in July.
Yeah,
back in July, and it's on the COVID testnet. So anyone can access it. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from it. We've open sourced the majority of it. So all our
you have some links on the page so people can check it out.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have an open source GitHub, and everything is on there. So like if they're viewing the site, if you just click on the GitHub in the header, you'll see everything. Like we've open sourced all the smart contracts, pretty much all the UI. And also we have 2 different versions of the alpha. So we do have the one on the COVID testnet, that's there. But then we also have a simulated web version, because we do realize there's a lot of people just getting into crypto that
who aren't familiar with the blockchain.
Yeah. So we're making like those attempts to try outreach to the mainstream that just want to get in and involved in some way. So
yeah, initially it was funny. Like we noticed and when we first went to testnet, it was great with the crypto community, because they already knew what to do, and they had to procure COVID Ether to get into the testnet version. But then there were a lot of journalists we were talking to who didn't know anything about crypto, or who weren't familiar with the blockchain yet, so they didn't necessarily know how to procure the COVID Ether, and then understanding the whole aspect of tokens. That's why we actually made that whole non-blockchain version, which feels more like a normal like web app, and you don't need MetaMask to use it. You don't need any like third-party plugins. You don't need parity. So it works that way to just give a better idea for people outside of crypto, for what it is. But other than that, in the testnet version, all the smart contracts are like very basic, but they function. And we've recorded I think well over like 2,000 transactions on the COVID testnet.
Okay. So are there any competitors that you have outside of the blockchain space? And why is it a blockchain solution better than traditional approach, if they are?
So I would say outside, first and foremost, WikiTribute.
Yeah.
WikiTribute's probably the biggest one that we always keep an eye on. So that was founded by Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia. And so WikiTribute is basically, they're trying to get into the news space as well. And their whole tilt is that they want to make unbiased, more accurate news. So similar to us, and this was this is news that will get reviewed by the readers after it's published. My concern with WikiTribute, and I do definitely like what they're doing, my concern comes down to the fact that they are still centralized at the end of the day. And that's why I do think a blockchain solution could be better, because there isn't one central entity controlling the news that comes out. So WikiTribute's case, it's run by like a core team of journalists, but who's to say that these journalists won't become biased down the line, or they won't put out content that appeals mainly to their political leanings? So there is no way, to make sure that they don't, go out of control in the sense of like the type of content they're putting out. It's still a very centralized team, so no one's really getting rewarded either.
Yeah, and to address the reason why we chose a blockchain over traditional tech is it's really because we're trying to address this issue of trust, right? So, I mean, if you look at what the blockchain is enabling, it's enabling us to trust the technology because we can see how it operates in a very open way. And that's something that you're really not going to get from like traditional databases like what you see on like a Facebook, where you don't know how their algorithms work. It's almost like a black box. But with the blockchain, I mean, you know exactly how things are happening under the hood. So that's one of the main reasons we use the blockchain. Another reason is really the incentivization layer. I mean, that's really the driver of how people are going to behave on this platform. We're able to actually reward them with something of value within this token economy. So that's certainly something that's of value to us for using the blockchain. And I think that's just something that we can't get with a traditional database or tech stack.
Yeah. So then my next question would be, do you have any competitors within the blockchain space?
Yeah.
First and foremost, I would say Civil.
Yeah.
So Civil's, also another company we've been, watching quite a bit, and they run more of like a marketplace for journalism.
Yeah. So I mean, just kind of their model is essentially you want these like local newsrooms set up that basically are self-sustaining newsrooms. So in a traditional newsroom, you have different parties involved. So you have the writers, you have the people checking things over before it gets published, and then you have people that basically fund these newsrooms to put out content. So they're trying to take that model and make it self-sustaining. It's an interesting approach. We tend to want to take the approach of like more a bigger news organization that will leverage more of the broader community in doing fact checking as opposed to just doing independent journalism that appeals to a certain type of newsroom.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting approach. It's been great to see like all these companies popping up in this space, operating in the blockchain and seeing all the different approaches. And what we've noticed is like we have our own unique approach. Civil has their own unique approach. Everyone has like their own approach, and there's a little overlap here and there, but not a lot. Everyone's doing something different. Everyone's doing their own thing. So I do think maybe like a year or two from now, it'll be hugely fascinating to see the results of what everyone is building and seeing all the different interactions that arise on all these decentralized platforms. But one thing is for sure, mainstream media definitely won't be the same a few years from now.
Yeah. So going back to the token economy of your project, would you share how will the sale go? How many tokens will be issued? How did you decide on that number, and how will they be distributed?
Yeah, sure. So the token supply is 1 billion. And out of that, more than 50% are going to be offered to the public. So we basically have pre-sale phase, we have a public sale phase. And in the pre-sale phase, we're basically offering about 20% of the tokens, and the rest of those tokens will be offering the public sale. We kind of just
the other 30%.
The other 30%, the other 30% will be offered there. And basically the rest is basically split amongst our advisory, amongst also seeding wallet accounts for newcomers onto the blockchain. So rather than setting up a wallet and doing all that and then going and purchasing tokens, some of the newer users, we'd like to just have a wallet already set up for them. So some of the tokens will be given to that. And really just our rationale behind
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So, so traditionally, like if you want to get into like a blockchain project, you have to set up a wallet. So since we're on Ethereum, you have to set up an Ethereum wallet. Then you
procure
have to
our token.
Procure our token, then go onto our platform and then try to use it. So we want to try to take out some of those steps, at least for the early writers on the platform, by already having the wallet set up with tokens. So in order to do that, some of the supply we need to put aside for us to then create those wallets and have those tokens already available to them. At least a little small amount. You can almost think of it like a trial. So like in a trial, they give you like a test period to try it out. We want to do the same thing for new writers on the platform.
Yeah, so we're basically setting aside like a small portion of the token supply to use as a. You can also think of it like a grant, and like these are tokens that we are giving you to quickly get onboarded onto the platform, so you don't have to buy them yourself.
Yeah.
So how much of that 50% supply will go to that?
Yeah, so right now it's 5% of the total supply will go to the seeding initiative. And then we also have a vesting period for us. So the founders take 10%. That'll pretty much vest as we go to mainnet. And this is actually something that's coded in our smart contract. So if anybody wants to see how this is done, it's there. And then the rest goes, so we have 14% that goes to our advisory. So we have a pretty strong advisory actually that, complements what we do. So because we come from more like the technical background, not so much the media, we have basically surrounded ourselves with people from the media industry, from journalism, from democratic systems. So we wanted them to be incentivized as well. So we put aside tokens for them as well as 14%. And then the remaining goes to company holding, as I was mentioning before. And that portion will get introduced into the platform over time. So, whether that's being sold on the platform or being injected into the platform by the company. And this is just so that we don't have all the tokens out there initially and there's a reason for the network to grow.
Yeah. So it's like a treasury.
Yeah, it's a treasury.
Okay, so when you say injected into the platform, what do you mean by that? Injected in what way?
Yeah, sure. So within the smart contract, because we're pooling all the tokens into like a smart contract pool, that pool is actually accessible by the company holding. So the company holding is just also in that same smart contract. And the way we've coded it is essentially when we hit certain milestones, we can then trigger the smart contract to put tokens back into the pool that would then get rewarded to the users. And that whole process is automated and based on milestones.
Okay, so maybe can you share next, how are you planning on using the proceeds from the token sale?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, a big part of it is going to go into development. So we pretty much have a very aggressive plan on how to get to mainnet as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I just want to quickly add,
go ahead.
As far as mainnet's concerned, we've estimated based on our current roadmap that we do want to get on mainnet by the end of this year. I would say latest, if there are any like development delays, I would say early next year. But we want to be on mainnet with the beta product and having that fully tested with with real tokens. I think that'll be our first truly incredible milestone.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like a big focus is going to be on development. So, that's going to be hiring a lot of more Solidity developers, a lot of back-end developers. That's really just going to propel the platform forward. We also want to put more of an emphasis when we use these user funds on, again, outreach, on educating our user base. So whether that's, going out to a lot of these conferences and talking to a lot of these people, we'll be using the funds for that as well. And then also we have a huge mobile front as well. So we want DNN to be accessible on iOS, on Android, not just on your desktop, just more of that. We all consume news on the phone, so we definitely want a front there. But yeah, a large portion of it's going to go to development this year.
All right. So what are your biggest challenges that you have laying ahead of you?
I would say this is a project of a really big scope. The sheer size of it in terms of building it, it's definitely a big challenge. I would say the biggest challenge we have in terms of development is getting the review process right. We've been experimenting with four different structures for DNN's article review process, and basically what we want to do is test all these things in isolation with different test groups in our once we start developing the beta. I would say that's going to be the biggest hurdle, and also making sure that the token economics actually work and are sensible, and like making sure all the incentives are aligned in the network for writers, reviewers. We want to make sure that they're earning enough. You also need to make sure that enough tokens are coming into the platform so that they can be given out as rewards. So I would say the whole crypto economic aspect is definitely a challenge to develop now that we've like sort of formulated everything.
Yeah, and we're gonna put like a huge emphasis also on design. So I think that's like something that right now the whole industry lacks right now. And Sam and I talk about this all the time. Like if you look at a lot of platforms, I think like just certain, even like terminology like gas and stuff like that, people are not familiar with. So we definitely want, I think it's going to be challenging for us though, but just crafting a UI that kind of, extracts out all the complexities of the blockchain. Like we almost want you to use DNN and not even know you're using the blockchain.
Yeah,
that's what we want to achieve. So that's certainly going to be a challenge. And, just getting people that are not familiar with tokens and how to use it.
Yeah, because a big part of the appeal of the platform will be people who've like never interacted with blockchain before or don't have any experience with tokens. A lot of mainstream appeal outside of crypto. So I would say one of our biggest challenges will be to get a lot of these users onboarded as quickly and easily as possible, and with a very minimal understanding of how tokens work. So I feel a lot of that's going to come down to design.
And also education.
Oh yeah,
big time.
Yep.
All right, cool. So can you share, as we're coming to a close, maybe a few words about the rest of your team?
Yeah. So we've also been working with a team of developers in Serbia as well, and they're Sili developers, and they were phenomenal in helping us construct the alpha for testnet. So they helped us usually in coding the early smart contracts that we've open sourced for the alpha. So they've been a great help to us, and as far as our advisory board is concerned, as Dondrey said, we have a pretty solid mix of experience in like journalism, the media industry, blockchain, of course. And people also in research. We have two really interesting advisors who are both PhDs as well, and one specializes in building democratic consensus systems, and the other specializes more in like the social aspect of these consensus systems and like how people interact within decentralized systems, what kind of norms we should establish. So they've been helping us, immensely, both in terms of like how we should construct DNN's review process, and also what kind of rules we should establish in the network for how people should ideally behave.
Yeah.
So we definitely have a very well-balanced team right now. And of course, we're continuously growing it and, appealing to people also, who are more deeply into the media space, journalist space. And I think it's going to be really interesting to construct the beta and see how we all work together as a team to make this happen.
So have you already established any connections and partnerships with journalists, with any medias?
Yeah, so we've been actively talking to a lot of different parties. We haven't finalized anything yet, but we do have a few local news organizations that we've been in talks with. So one of our most recent advisors, actually, is from Compass News. And Compass News is actually really interesting because what they're trying to do is what they're doing now is they're taking events that happen and only showing you like bits of facts for those, and then showing them within the feed. So you can almost think of it like an Axios. And we've been just talking to him about ways that basically DNN articles can be utilized by news aggregators, or again, like as someone brought up earlier, is fact checking as a service. So we are like looking for partnerships of that angle. So
and even speaking to more senior journalists at organizations like CNBC, BBC. So we've been in talks with people from those companies, and it just comes down to like what kind of sort of like deals we can structure, and seeing like better ways that we can collaborate with these bigger entities. I think that would be incredible. And we haven't seen a blockchain really. It's causing a big shift right now, but we haven't seen it really penetrate the bigger companies when it comes to media now. So.
Okay, and would you share with our audience when your crowd sale is? And we will have some links here on the page if they wish to sign up for updates or to support you. But let's speak a bit about that, and maybe you can talk to them a bit about why should they support you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess I'll mention the token sale. So right now we're still within the pre-sale phase. We originally wanted to go with the public sale on April 3rd, but just kind of how the market. Yeah, it was yesterday. With kind of how the market was, we just felt like that was a bad idea, and we really want to.
Yeah, we've noticed a lot of like market fluctuation now, and it looks like at least right now, currently, it doesn't look like a great time to like have an ICO running live. So we've decided to postpone the public sale till everything clears up, and that's when we expect to have like a very solid start and end date for the public sale. So currently we're still in our private sale phase, but we are whitelisting for the public sale.
Yeah. So right now we have like well over 3,000 people that have whitelisted on, and we're still allowing people to continue to whitelist and within this kind of indefinite period. But the good thing is we're not going to stop development. So because we've already procured funds in the pre-sale, we're going to be utilizing that to just continue development until we get to the public sale.
But yeah, anyone who's interested in whitelisting for the public sale or learning more about the pre-sale, crowdsale.dnn.media is the site to visit.